So this is a video for adding the eyelashes to the dog face. So here I have my yarn pre-cut, and during the knitting of the dog face we placed markers, and now we're going to use those markers in order to determine where to start and end each eyelash. So we're going to start over here on the right eye by turning the piece over, and I can see where that marker is just a little bit right there. And so I'm going to use my crochet hook just to pull a loop through to tie this on, to anchor it. Okay. What I want to do is I want to pull the first loop through the middle of this marked stitch right here. So if let's see if I stretch that a little bit, you can see this stitch right here. I want to go just below the bump and pull it through. So go over to the back, loop this around the hook, and pull through to the front. Okay, so now I can remove this marker, making kind of a mess, but and I'm kind of, with my left hand, I'm kind of holding this yarn at the back, and I'm going to go diagonal 2 stitches. So my first stitch is going to be right here, diagonally from where I brought the loop up. That's the first stitch here. So I'm going to insert the needle and pull a loop up, and then pull it through the loop that I already had. And now I'm going to make one more diagonal stitch through this stitch right here, which is diagonal from the one I just did. Again, insert the hook through, pull the loop up, and I'm kind of holding at the back, I'm holding this yarn, the working yarn, in position so that I can grab it easily when I'm poking the crochet hook through. So now we're going to make 2 stitches directly sideways. So insert the crochet hook, pull up the stitch, insert the crochet hook again, pull up the stitch. Okay, so now you can see I've got 4 chains done. So now I'm going to go diagonal, make 2 diagonal stitches ending up on this stitch that's marked. So here's my first diagonal stitch. Oops, almost lost that one. Put that back through. And here's my second one, which is right through the stitch that has the marker. Might have a little trouble pulling that up because of the marker. Let me take that off. Okay, try that again. Should be easier without that marker there. Now we have the slurping of the drinking dog, which you can probably hear. My dog is going on 15. She's a Labrador Retriever. She's really sweet. Her name is Ginny. So, but she's loud. Okay, so now I've got my 6 lashes completed. So that's the first one. So now got this yarn still at the back, and I want to secure this last lash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this yarn all the way through the last loop, just like that. So now I have the entire yarn at the front of the work. And now I could use a tapestry needle, but I'm just going to use my crochet hook. So now I'm coming from the back through that same stitch, poking the crochet hook through, loop it around, and then draw it down to the back. Okay. Make a little adjustment so you can kind of drag my whole loop through. I don't want to cut the yarn because then I have more ends to wind in, and so I'm going to turn this over to the back. So this is just a little swatch piece I did, and so ignore all those extra yarns. I ran out of yarn because I wasn't sure how much I needed when I started it. So now I'm just going to travel over by, drawing through these bumps on the back to the next location, where you can see the back of my stitch marker is right there. It's kind of a yellow color there. So I'm just going to use this to kind of weave and travel over here to the next location of the lash. Okay, so there, now I've traveled. Turn it back to the front. Pinch that working yarn from behind so I know where it is. And then there's the stitch that I want to go through. So let me poke the crochet hook through, remove the marker to get it out of the way. So now can again loop over and pull that first loop through. So this is for the second eyelash, the beginning. So like the first one, we're going to make 2 diagonal stitches down, 2 over, and then 2 up to the last marker. Okay, so here's the first one. 1 diagonal. So now I'm using a pretty small crochet hook. This is a 4 millimeter. So I need to maybe adjust this stitch. Just make sure that it's not too tight. So, and then there's my second diagonal. Pull that up. And now I'm going to go 2 over. So again, just to clarify, I'm going right through the stitch below the bump. So there's the bump, and I'm going right through that hole below it. That's where I always make my stitches. So go through and pull that up. Go through the next horizontal stitch, pull that up. So now I've got 2 diagonal, 2 horizontal. So now I'm going back up to the location of the last, I called it M4 stitch marker. Okay, so here's this stitch. That's the one I'm going for. It's diagonal to the one I just finished. So through this one, whoop, lost it. Okay, here, adjust that to make sure the tension's good. And then I'm gonna go through the eye of the last one where the marker is. I'm gonna take that marker off. This is marker M4. Okay, now I got my 6 loops, my 6 chains or whatever you want to call them. So now I'm going to pull this last thread all the way through so that I can secure the end. So now I just got this big thread here, and now I'm going to go to the back up through that same hole, but to the outside of the stitch, right? Because I want to lock that stitch in place. So I want to draw the yarn back down through the same hole, locking it in place. Okay, so there. So now I'm going to turn again. I got my very messy back. I'm going to cut this, and then I'll just tie it off by drawing a loop through a bump of a stitch next to it. Pull the yarn through to make a little knot. Okay, so now I don't want to weave ends in. Let's turn it back this way. I don't want to weave the ends of the lashes into the blue part because it might show on the other side. So I'm just going to start weaving in at the back of the lash, in this, the back of the stitches. So pull it through. Again, you could do this with a tapestry needle if you want, but since I'm just working with the crochet hook, I can just kind of pull it through. And I think this looks pretty good. This makes a tidier looking back. So I can just do like that. So maybe to the middle, to this middle stitch. If I can get it. There we go. And then do the same thing over here with the other loose end. Just pull it through with the crochet hook along the line of the lashes that we just created. I just want to say thank you to Cascade Yarns. This is Cascade 220 Superwash, which I have left over from a book, a blanket that I did for my first book, Geometric Knit Blankets. So, okay, well, that's probably good enough. So then I could just kind of trim up these ends. I like to kind of feather them a little bit, and I have these really sharp embroidery scissors, and so I can kind of, I don't like to have blunt ends, so. Okay, so there. So there's that's the back of the eyelashes. Again, ignore all this mess. So, and here's the front. So I think those look pretty good. And yeah, that's it. So I hope this was helpful, and happy knitting, and stay positive.